Hello, Milton Guy here with another podcast. I want to say a few words. I pointed out on several occasions what an important era in which we live. We're coming up on an election. And to say it again, but I'm going but to say it again is just, it seems to be empty because it's said so much, but it is so true that this is the most crucial, most important election that we will ever face, probably in our lifetime. You know, the United States of America is called many things. One of the things they will say, and we always say, not all of us, but the vast majority of us will say that the United States is the most powerful nation in the world, most powerful nation that has ever existed. Now, when that is said, what comes to mind could be several things. What could come to mind is we have the greatest military strength of any nation that has ever existed. We have enough weaponry to do in the rest of the world if we were that kind of people. And we do not stop making those weapons. They are continued to be made and new ones created. So not only is our strength in numbers growing, our technology grows along with it. Militarily, anyone would be able to say that we are the most powerful nation in the world. Now, that doesn't mean that we're the most important nation. It just means that we are bound by a duty now, because we are in that position, not to police the rest of the world, but to be an example to the rest of the world. And I've made it very clear that in the last years, since 2016, we have woefully failed at the example part of it. I mean, Donald Trump would tell you that the world is laughing at us, and he is correct in saying that. But they're laughing at us because of Donald Trump. Of course, he will not say that. But as I said on my last podcast, you only have to listen to news broadcasts from around the world, and not inevitably, probably, you're going to hear something about this country that places us in a very negative spot. That our reputation has been tarnished because of Donald Trump, because of things he says and does. But not only that, especially because the American people have allowed this man to happen. So yes, in one way, when you talk about this country, militarily speaking, and I have no way of proving this or disproving it, but according to what I hear and observe, that we are militarily the most powerful nation in the world. But another way of looking at it when someone says that, or when we hear that term, is that economically, there's no country as economically rich as this country. Now, I'm talking about covering all the bases now. Economically rich in in the availability of jobs, in the availability of goods, in the availability of manufacturing. Whatever we need to manufacture, we can do it here. COVID presented us a huge problem, transportation-wise. There was a while that goods were not as available as they are beginning to be again. It was a bad time. And when we hear Donald Trump talk about how things were, and under Joe Biden, you got to remember, you must remember, that we were going through one of the worst things that we've ever gone through. But right now, we have overcome the plague that haunted us and destroyed many lives, coming back from the pandemic like no other nation. We're closer to a full comeback than any nation out there. And if you don't believe that President Biden had something to do with that, then you're just not paying attention, or you don't want to admit it because you hate Democrats. Well, you can hate Democrats or you can hate Republicans until this country is absolutely dissolved and destroyed. But getting back to the most powerful nation in the world, in those two ways, we can safely say that we probably, very probably, are the most powerful country in the world economically and militarily. But what I wanted to talk about was something I heard from someone that had just returned from another country on vacation. And they were talking about the gas being $6 to $8 a gallon. And said that he had never thought about it. But he'd always heard that if you ever want to know how we have it here in this country, go to a foreign country. And he said he discovered that then, that he appreciated the United States a whole lot more, even during and post-pandemic, because of what we have been able to maintain and the way we have been able to come back. And Joe Biden is a huge part of that. And I have to say, very little was done by any Republican group to help us along the way. They fought Joe Biden tooth and nail. But we have that our gas prices are higher than we'd like for them to be, but just go to another country and see how good we have it here. Go to another country when you go to the grocery store. Here, the prices are higher than we want them to be. But if you want a steak, or if you want a rack of ribs, when you get there, you may have to pay $1 or $2 more, or more, but that steak will be there. That's the United States of America. And that's how we have come back. And that is due to a great, great part by President Joseph Robinette Biden. Yes, he had to drop out for reasons that many men and women have to drop out of what they were doing. But it does not take away what he was able to accomplish. And he did it without most Republicans. I also heard someone say, I was listening to a news broadcast from Canada, and one of the anchors said, you know, no matter who wins this election, no matter how it comes out, America, the United States of America, will never be the same. You know, it is up to us to believe that. But it's also up to us to believe that we can make it a positive or we can make it a negative. It is absolutely essential, number one, that Donald John Trump never set foot or darkens the door of the Oval Office. He is unfit to be president. And I don't even need to have to tell you why. You may be shaking your head now, but I don't need to tell you why. You know what this man has done. You know what he stands for. He never deals with policy. All he can do now, even in his campaigning, is talk about the other side. I have a relative, a brother, for years. We all assumed that he felt the only way he could feel good about himself was to try to make someone else look bad. That's Donald Trump in a nutshell. And that counts for nothing. Who's dealing with the policies? Who won't talk about the nonsense? Kamala Harris, Tim Walz. No, it's not that we won't be the same militarily. I'm assuming we will. It's not that we won't be the same regardless of how the election goes economically. Unless, of course, Donald Trump is elected, which I do not believe he will be. But if he is, we cannot be on top economically for long. No, but it's not in those ways we'll never be the same. It's something to me more important. And I'm not going to quote all these things, but there's a line that we've heard all of our lives. We, the people of the United States of America, we do this thing. It's all of us doing this thing. All of us in it together. We're all Americans. And we have this little thing out in New York on the island, Liberty Island. Send us your poor, your huddled masses, those that are looking for a better life, those that are looking to participate with us. They do not have the ring of authenticity. They do not have the ring of serious conviction like they used to. Am I saying that we can't get that back? I said a moment ago, it is up to us to believe that we'll never be the same, but it's up to us to believe that we, the people, can make it a positive or a negative. The most important thing that we have to do in November of 2024, the most important thing, and see how I label these, number these. The most important thing is to keep Donald Trump as far away from our White House and our government as we can. And the second most important thing is to put Kamala Harris in as president of the United States. And the third thing is for all of us to start treating each other like we want to be treated. And that takes us back to one of the other things that'll never be the same, and that is the church. Donald Trump, I know your response is, well, I see churches everywhere. I'm saying the church as we knew it. The strong belief that you had in the Bible. And I've stated how I feel about the Bible, about Jesus. But I still believed in the concept. I believed in philosophy. And I believed the Bible was important, coming from using the words of Jesus. But we'll never be the same, because so many who called themselves born again Christians aligned themselves and attached themselves to this monster of a man, Donald Trump. You allowed him to make a mockery of Jesus. You allowed him to make a mockery of the church. You allowed him to make a mockery of what that church has stood for. And as far as I can tell now, what was once known as the Bible Belt can't even be regarded as a Bible Belt anymore, because Donald Trump has destroyed that, not because of Donald Trump, but because of you, whoever you are. If you're that born again Christian that supported Donald Trump, voted for Donald Trump, and can't see what an evil human being Donald Trump is, that is why it'll never be the same. That is why I made the comment that if you ever have to have a reason, after seeing all the things and hearing all the things that Donald Trump has done, if you have to have another reason not to vote for him, remember, that puts J.D. Vance a heartbeat away from the Oval Office. And that's what I'm talking about, how you can't go back to being the same. J.D. Vance talked about Donald Trump being America's Hitler, talking about how he is unfit. And now he tries to go to another place, and you can't do that. I can't unsee it. I can't unhear it. When I see J.D. Vance, I hear all the stupid things he says, but loud and clear coming across to me are those words: Donald Trump is America's Hitler. How do you go from that to becoming the man that wants to be his vice president in line for the presidency of the United States? No, it's not the military. It's not the economics. It's just the downright respect that we've always received from other countries. I'm not saying we were liked, but we had amongst the nations respect for one another, and all countries at the very least respected the United States, and most countries stood for what we stood for and knew that we were at the forefront. That is gone. And in that sense, we will never be the same. But like I said, it's up to you and it's up to me to know that things will never be the same. But it's up to you and it's up to me to make it a positive or a negative thing. November the 5th. I'm voting for Kamala Harris. Do I believe everything, understand everything? Do I agree with everything? No, I do not. I've never agreed with everything that any politician said, whether I was on board with them or not. And I'm not voting for the lesser of two evils. In this particular election, as it was in 2016, we're not voting for the lesser of two evils. If we vote the other way, we're voting against evil incarnate in the man Donald John Trump. It's up to us to make this thing that we'll never go back to a positive or a negative. Thank you. I want to point out my wife's book, Leaving Small Town by Sue Guy. A very good book. You will enjoy her book. I guarantee you will enjoy it. You won't put it down until you're finished. And then my book, The Offspring of Ignorance. It's about people who choose ignorance. Not people who are ignorant, but people who choose ignorance. And I use that term a lot. Chosen ignorance. The Offspring of Ignorance by J. Milton Guy. Leaving Small Town by Sue Guy. And if you will, subscribe to my podcast. Give me a thumbs up if possible. And remember, all those out there who are trying their dead level best to bring this nightmare to an end, we know it's Donald Trump. Tennessee Brando and Texas Paul, Binary Touch Network, R.M. Melber, Rachel Maddow, Adam Mock. There are many out there. You just have to look for them. They're out there. They're telling you. And I'll say it again, like I always do. Please listen to Fox. You listen to Fox, and you listen to the others, and then you make comparison and you check it out. Check it out. And I want to point out to you one thing, and you see if I'm not right. If Donald Trump shows up for the debate on the 10th, don't try to count the lies that he tells. Just make a list of the truths that will come out of his mouth. It'll be a much easier chore. God bless you all. I hope you all have a great week and weekend. And I will see you next time.